Hello and welcome to Fifth and Grace. I am with my friend Caitlyn of the Intuitive Forest. Obviously, this is our Halloween episode. If you are new here, thank you for joining us. It doesn't always look like this. Go check out our other videos. We do look like normal human beings. And if you are an old friend, thank you for joining us again. This, of course, is our veil thinning episode, our favorite time of year, the time where witches are very, very busy, aren't we?
Yes.
Yes, there's all kinds of things going on, including all of the, trick or treat stuff and all the Samhain celebrations for honoring our loved ones, and Halloween, all of our spooky stuff, and all the shows and the movies and everything else. So we thought we would take some time together and chat about all of our favorite elements. We are going to talk about the spiritual significance of this time of year, some rituals that you can participate in, how you can, explore the energies of this season through tarot, and of course, QHHT, which Caitlyn will explain again for us because I can't remember what it's actually called. I was like, the thing you do, that thing you do. So before we begin, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what your costume is today?
So I'm Caitlyn. I'm from the Intuitive Forest. I decided to dress up as Harry Potter today, with the Gryffindor logo here.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So I offer a whole bunch of services. Quantum healing hypnosis technique is one. That's the QHHT. I also do spiritual guidance coaching. I offer intuitive readings, and I do energy clearings on people or their workspaces and homes. So a little bit about me, and I'm super excited to talk about Samhain today because it's like Avril said, it's like one of the favorite times of the year.
It's our time.
It's our time. It's a great time to get information. It's a great time to go deep into your spiritual practice and really connect with your ancestors, connect with the spirit world. So I'm super excited to get into that today.
So my costume, I am the Crow Queen. Look at it.
This.
Caw, caw. And I've got my crown. Isn't it very Game of Thrones?
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. And of course, some shiny objects because hello, caca. And my feather stole. And I pulled this together the other night because I had a vision and I went to the party store and here's what I came up with.
I
So
love it.
this is what we're rocking this Halloween.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll go out in my backyard when we're done and be like, caca, caca.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh yes, and if you haven't got a beverage, make sure you get yourself some hydration before you settle down, because Caitlyn and we're usually good for about 90 minutes of chitty chat. So, yeah, yeah, this is what happens when you put two chatterboxes together.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, who are also very passionate about what we do.
Of course.
So we're going to begin with an exploration of the spiritual significance of Halloween and Samhain. And you know what? I just want to touch on this again in case anybody's new here. Caitlyn and I are really like we kind of are driven by our human design. And if you don't know what that is, go Google it. And do the little test, and you'll find out what your human design is. It's based on your date of birth, so you'll be able to see. Now, Caitlyn is a manifester, and Caitlyn is the ideas girl in this relationship. She comes up with all the ideas. And in fact, one night I was away at an event and I get this message from her and she said, what if we did a podcast, but like on YouTube? And I was like, I'm here for it. Let's do it. And then I thought, okay, this will take a little while. We'll come up with some ideas. No, within about 20 minutes, I got pages and pages of all the ideas, the entire show for a year laid out. And so because Caitlyn's energy is in like coming up with ideas for us, but my energy is
a generator.
Get it done. So a lot of people might be like, why does the blonde one keep like acting like she's the boss here? I'm not the boss. This is an equal partnership. But my energy is one of driving things forward and making things happen. So that's why I kind of come off as like, I'm leading the show, I'm driving the bus. And
Avril gets my butt going, okay? I can procrastinate for years. This girl won't let it happen. I will create an idea. I will, snap, create it, but then I won't sustain it, or I won't, get kind of go on to the next thing. I'm like, oh, squirrel, it's there. So
yeah.
It's a
So
great
yeah,
relationship. It works very well for
we
us.
are a tremendous partnership because if I had to come up with all the ideas, I'd be like, I don't know, and I'd probably just start crying. And so I let you run what we're going to talk about and how it's going to unfold, and I'm just driving the bus and making it move forward for us. So
Yeah.
if you are interested in human design, go Google it, check it out, and just realize that manifestors and generators are like the perfect combination for getting anything done.
Yeah.
So, we're going to explore the spiritual significance of Halloween and Samhain.
Can you
And
explain what Samhain is first?
yes, so do you want me to do my little thing that I had prepared?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do that because it explains everything.
Mhm.
So, Halloween and Samhain are both celebrated on October 31st. Okay. Easy peasy to remember. And they're both deeply spiritual occasions rooted in ancient traditions, which I love because we love our ancient stuff around here. And while Halloween has evolved into a fun and festive holiday, its origins are closely tied to the sacred festival of Samhain, a time of profound spiritual significance in many cultures, especially the Celtic tradition. So, I happen to have been born in Scotland. I come from a long line of Scottish people. I traced my ancestry back bajillions of years. And then at one point it veers off to Ireland. So we didn't stray very far as being Celtic in my life. So it's very deep in my ancestral DNA and who I am. And I, when I think of like druid women dancing around standing stones up in the Highlands, I'm like, I'm here for it. What color gown do I wear?
Yeah.
Like, just tell me what time. So Samhain is known as the pagan New Year, and in more modern times now, it is the witches' New Year. So all the witches are all about it. Get your brooms out, girls. Gas them up. We got work to do. So the word Samhain actually means summer's end. And it marks the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. And this symbolizes the transition from light to darkness. And for ancient Celts, Samhain was the start of the new year and the time to honor the cycles of life and death. And it's believed that on this night, October 31st, the veil between the physical world and the spirit world is at its thinnest. And this allows spirits, ancestors, and other worldly beings to cross over. Samhain was traditionally a time for honoring deceased loved ones, divination, and connecting with the unseen realms. And spiritually, Samhain represents transformation and renewal. As the cycle of the seasons shift, it's a time for reflecting on personal growth and releasing what no longer serves you. Hello, the leaves are falling off the trees. Nature's showing us how it's done.
Rebirth.
Yes, it is a time of spiritual renewal, clearing space for new intentions as the darker half of the year begins. And it's also about honoring our ancestors, as this is a time to connect with those who came before us, honoring their wisdom and guidance, and recognizing the continuity of life, death, and rebirth. And it's also, probably most importantly, a time for shadow work. And I talk about this a lot on my channel. Samhain's dark introspective energy invites us to confront our shadows, which are our fears and our traumas and our unresolved emotions. And this provides an opportunity for deep healing.
Mhm.
Halloween, on the other hand, is our modern celebration, and it's rooted in Samhain. So it carries remnants of these spiritual traditions, and as it was adapted by various cultures, particularly in Christian and American contexts, Halloween became a day of dressing up, playing tricks, and celebrating the supernatural. However, the underlying themes of honoring the dead, facing fears, and acknowledging the spirit world remain, even today.
Mhm.
And spiritually, Halloween encourages facing our fears. With its playful engagement with ghosts and spirits and the supernatural, it mirrors the deeper work of confronting inner fears and finding empowerment in the process. It's about embracing transformation. The costumes and masks worn during Halloween symbolize the many roles we play in life and remind us of the transformative power of change and reinvention. And it is, of course, is about celebrating life. Halloween is ultimately about celebrating the mystery and wonder of life, death, and all that lies beyond. And it offers us a lighthearted yet meaningful way to engage with these eternal themes. And both of these celebrations remind us of the cyclical nature of life, the importance of honoring both the seen and unseen aspects of our existence, and the opportunity for spiritual growth through transformation, release, and renewal. And that was my hard work this morning. So what do you think? Tell me your thoughts on all of that.
Well, I think you summed it up really good. The celebration created by the Celts. I too am very strong Celtic heritage in me, so I feel very called to celebrate, and I've always felt that connection. But I find that traditionally it was a time to connect with the spirit world, connect with um, you know, even connecting with the earth a little bit, because it's the end of the summer season, it's the end of the summer harvest. And it's just a really, really, really fun celebration because it's sort of marking, I think it's the new year. It's the new year in the Celtic calendar. So I love it. Halloween, I also love, the modern take on it. Hence why we're dressed up today. And I think that it's really interesting when you start to see the layers of what was the first traditions of it to what it's become. There's still quite a lot of undertones, like you were saying. It's a fun time of year and it's a celebration, as it should be. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the bases of where it started and what it is. Um, I'm trying to kind of reincorporate more Samhain traditions into my Halloween now. So I really like to take this time to go inwards, to really do the shadow work, like you were saying, and to share that information with other people, because I think that a lot of people can really benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's important to remember, just like other holidays like Easter, right? There's a spiritual significance to that, whether you're Christian or you're
Yeah.
follow pagan traditions or you just like chocolate bunnies. There is a like 'cause I'm here for all of it. But there is a spiritual element to it that can appeal to many, many people, not just of one religion. The
Right.
same with Christmas, because we have that time of, if we just look at the energies of that time of year, they're just so beautiful. It's the season of light
Yeah.
for Christians, for Jews, for pagans, witches, all of it, because we're out here lighting our candles and honoring Yule and Christmas and the New Year and everything else. There's so many different
Yeah.
layers to things. So I think that when we look at Halloween, it's easy to get caught up in like the expensive costumes, the trick or treating,
Mhm.
the consumption, the greed, shall we say it,
Yeah.
and the overindulgence of it. There's always like Halloween parties, and I feel like as a society we have strayed so far from the original meaning of this, that
Right.
it is important to try to share our thoughts and our beliefs, and if anybody can feel connected to something great. It's always fun to learn new things and see, like, I know, being from Scotland, and obviously my parents and grandparents and so on and so forth, they did Halloween in a whole different way.
Mhm.
Because when they say trick or treat,
Mhm.
you actually had to. I was with a friend last night who's from Scotland, and we were talking about Halloween, and she said she remembers having to do this. So I grew up on the stories of, you didn't just show up at the door and go trick or treat and get candy and then say thanks and leave.
Mhm.
You had to do a trick. You had to do a party trick. And so you'd be invited into the living room and you'd sing a song, or you'd do a little dance, or you'd tell a joke, and then you would get your little bag of nuts or an apple or, some toffee or something, and
Right.
then you'd go off. So it wasn't a matter of hitting as many houses as you can to get as much candy as you can.
Right.
It was about the children would dress up to disguise themselves from the evil spirits that
Yep, yep,
could come through the veil because it was so thin. And people with, the jack-o'-lantern would, that has some symbolic meaning and spiritual meaning. And of course, soul cakes would be left out for all the poor souls that had lost their way. And you know what, maybe I might even put a recipe for soul cakes in the description of this,
cool idea. Yeah,
because then if you want to make them and try them, they're quite yummy. They do date back to ancient times, and they're quite easy to make. But people would do things to disguise themselves from the evil spirits, to scare away the evil
right.
spirits.
To repel
um,
them.
yeah, and then also honor the season. I know you and I have probably spent a lot of time recently in our gardens, and harvesting and getting all the last things cut down, and all the last little berries and fruits and everything
My
pulled
gardens are
out.
very sad, so I won't agree to that. But
Well, you could have just nodded. I would have accepted, yes, I have been. Yeah, so just that, that when you said connected to the earth, I'm like, yeah, like I've spent a lot of time in my garden picking berries, like because I have
yeah.
raspberries, so we get that second harvest in the fall, and it's been a lot. So yeah, there's so many different elements to it, and in the Celtic countries, they don't trick or treat the way we do here. Like it's just not the same.
Well, it's super commercialized now.
Yeah.
Now like you said, it's really just about getting as much candy as you can go, and that's Halloween, which is really kind of gross if you think about it. I mean, it's been stripped of any meaning, it's been stripped of any substance other than maybe dressing up is fun. I will say that. But there's also, um, if you want to break, I think the fear of all of the demons and the spirits, protecting all the spirits, that was an imposed fear, I think, based on the I want to say invasion of Christianity into those cultures. So I think if we want to go even deeper, we can get to the very, very core of what it truly is. And it represents the energetic shift of the earth, and the energetic shift of the earth, and the changing of the seasons. And when the energetic shift changes, I believe that allows more opportunity for us to access that spirit realm, because the veil is thinner, and there's been that energy shift allowing that to happen, which if we look at it and we replace the fear behind it, which there's a lot of fear based, because that's what people use to control people, is fear. But if we can actually get even deeper and get into, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I allow this time to, maybe really connect with my ancestors, really connect with my spirit team, my spirit, all those things available to us in I want to say the spirit realm, or I call it like the quantum field, like it's all around us all the time. Being able to access that and just learn how to allow us to celebrate it in a different way, I guess.
And it's important to note that a lot of people think that the spirit realm is like way, way.
Mhm.
No, it's like right here. It's like right here.
Yeah.
It's right.
It's just a different frequency, and that's why
Yes.
people are able to do readings. So myself as a reader, or yourself as a reader, we're just able to tune into the frequency, and everybody's able to do it. It's just a lot of people don't know how, or they don't trust it. And it's like a radio station, radio dial. You just got to be tuned in, and then it's there. It's literally existing and happening all around us all the time. And it's really interesting because I saw this thing the other day about honeybees and how honeybees see. I think it said that they have like 5 eyeballs or something, but if you look online, there's this video about a projection of what a honeybee visualizes as what they see humans as. And we look like specks of energy, just float outlines of us like a ghost. And that's a honeybee's eyes. That's their perception. That's what they can see. But imagine ourselves, our perception, what we can see. Who's to say that we're not, we're missing out on all the other frequencies around us because we're not tuned in, or we're not able to physically see it with our eyeballs. We can see it with our mind's eye, which is the third eye, I guess.
But we can't even see it with our eyeballs, because if you can read auras, which
Yeah.
is not hard to do,
Yeah.
anybody watching this right now, you can try this today and read auras. So that is just one level of being able to see something spiritually. And I'll just quickly explain how to read an aura. You just take your hand. I say for beginners, put it against a white wall
Mhm.
or like hold it up against your white ceiling and then just let your eyes relax. You can even almost like squint a little bit, but don't force it. And then you should start to see some color around your hand. And because our eyes have rods and cones, and the
Mhm.
cones see color and the rods see light, it might be helpful to just shift your gaze slightly away from your hand. And then you
Right.
might see it almost like out of the corner of your eye.
It's
So
yeah,
try that. But that's just a way that earthbound people can see spiritually.
right. Because it's the energy. We're seeing the energy around us.
Yeah.
And again, too, it's when you see a ghost. People see spirits all the time, spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call it. You typically, when you see a ghost, you see it kind of out of the corner of your eye. It's almost like you want to go focus on it, but if you were to actually focus on it, it would probably disappear. It's almost like a moving energy form. And the same with the reading the auras. Like I think that's really good advice, is just looking at it, but don't stare at your hands trying to see something. You have to kind of adjust your gaze to allow yourself to go out of focus, which is really weird how I'm going in and out of focus with the camera.
I know every time you lean forward.
Pardon me. But yeah, no, it's really cool being able to see energy. We can do
Hmm.
it. We can all do it.
And I've had that happen where like I've seen ghosts like walk past me where I'm like, "Oh, who are you?" But then I've also had that experience of like out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, "What was that? What was that?" And there's nothing there. And then I start thinking, "Okay, there's a ghost or I'm going to start smelling burnt toast
Yeah.
soon or something."
Do you feel them?
Canadians will know the reference. Yeah.
Do you feel them around you? Because I know I always feel them. I can feel them more than I can see them. I can see them out of the corner of my eye, but I've also chosen to not want to see them because I think it's just too much for my brain. I don't.
Wow. Well, maybe someday you will. I want to see them. I want to see it all. I want everything. I don't want anyone holding back from me. I want it all. But yeah, we are the feeling them around me. I am going to tell a story later on in this episode about feeling a ghost.
Mhm.
So definitely, yes, I've had that happen. So I've seen them and I've definitely felt them. And then I've also just experienced the energy of a house. I actually last week did an energetic cleansing of someone's
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
And we actually kind of pinned down exactly the location in the house where this energy is sitting. And it's interesting because her dog won't walk past there kind of thing. And I told her what I believe has happened on that spot,
Right.
even though I don't believe it happened in the house, but on the property.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting. Like as soon as I opened this door of this, it was in a pantry, and I opened the door and I was like, and I took a step back because like it was just I could just feel it so strong, and it didn't scare me. It was just I felt it. I'm like, oh, this is where it is, and
Mhm.
but it was very sad. So
Yeah.
it was, yeah. So, just in case anybody's wondering what I do when I encounter that, I just I've got bells, I have smoke, I've
Yep.
got different tools that I use and I pray for them. I'm not Christian, so I don't pray like a Christian. I pray like somebody who's a metaphysical minister.
Mhm.
So I pray and then I talk to them and encourage them to go. I'm like, just go up, like find your people. You don't belong here. Your time here is complete. You did everything you need to do, and just try to help them move along. And I'm not a ghost hunter, but certainly I can tap into energies and feel them. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely, and I think a lot of people feel this, but they don't know what it is, and they don't necessarily know to trust themselves when they're
Right.
feeling something like that. And we see that like people will stay too long somewhere. And it's like, yeah, you needed to get out of there. You should have been able, you probably were feeling something but you just didn't trust it. You thought you had
Right.
indigestion. Yeah.
That happens a lot, actually. People will they'll call out for energy clearings and they're like, oh, everything's getting worse and worse and worse, and I don't know why. And I said, well, you're not trusting that initial gut feeling when you knew something was off, but you didn't know what it was. Like the energy around us affects us so much. It affects our health, it affects our well-being, it affects our happiness, it affects our relationships, it affects everything about us. if our energy space isn't uplifting, then we're not going to be uplifted. If it's draining, we're going to be drained. And
Mhm.
can I pause this for 1 second?
Yes, of course.
I keep coughing. I just have to get some cough medicine. Sorry.
Okay, it's all good. I'll just entertain everybody while we're waiting. So just so we know, Caitlyn is recovering from a wicked cold that turned into pneumonia. So that's why she's having a little coughing fit here. But she's just gone to get some medicine. I will entertain you while you are here and we're waiting. Do me a favor, and while I have you here, leave a comment and tell me if you're going to go trick-or-treating, if your kids are going trick-or-treating, if you're going to a Halloween party. Let me know what your plans are for this time of year. And if you have spiritual beliefs, let us know as well. And don't forget to click like and, of course, the subscribe button. I do have a playlist. It's called Be a Fly on the Wall, and all of the episodes with Caitlyn are there. So you'll be able to listen to us jabber on about all sorts of things. We can never have a quick conversation, that's for sure. And actually, I just realized I need to plug in my laptop. So I'll be right back too. So it's on you now, Caitlyn.
All right. Well, thank taking over for a minute. I just got over pneumonia. So, or sorry, I'm going through getting over pneumonia right now. And it's causing a lot of coughing. So,
Yeah. Earlier this year I had whooping cough
Mhm.
because, I had to get myself a nice Victorian illness for the
I
spring.
remember I said that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it took me a long time to recover. So it was about 4 weeks that I was violently sick,
Oh,
and I really thought I was going to die.
it's
Because what
not
happens
happy.
when you have whooping cough is you're coughing, and then you can easily start throwing up, and the coughing causes all this nausea. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, of all the ways, I really didn't think this is how I would die.
No.
Like I thought, like throwing up and coughing and all like the same thing. Anyway, so it was 4 weeks, which is pretty standard that I was sick. And then all of a sudden one day I wasn't. But I had a long recovery period. And I think it was because of the humidity of the summer, because it would be humid for a couple days and then dry for a couple days. And that's when I would find like I would start sort of feeling it
You're like
tightness in my
irritated.
throat. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think I'm okay now. So, so
Good.
anyway, now you're all up to date on our health. Here we are. We're not editing that out because I think we gave some pretty good information out there. Yeah. So I think it's just, if anything, anybody who is sort of finding their way into the spiritual world and into the witchy world, Halloween is your time. Like this is where we shine. And as they always say, buckle up, witches. So this is
Oh.
probably what gets people going into the spiritual journey and into the witchy journey is celebrating Halloween and sort of diving into that, and then learning about more of the parts of the wheel of the year, the spiritual wheel, the pagan wheel of the year. And then of course after um, Halloween and Samhain, we have the Day of the Dead and
Mhm.
All Souls Day. So those are whole other conversations,
Yeah.
but are about honoring our ancestors and the people who've gone before us, which is just stays within that theme. So it does stretch out over a few days. And yeah, there's just so much to do and so much to honor and celebrate and have fun with
Well, I
and
think anyone exploring their own inner magic or, their spirituality, now is the time to do it. Because you're going to get those really fast. You're going to, that sometimes that's all we need is that little bit of confidence in ourselves once we see something working for us to continue and then make our practice stronger. So when
Mhm.
I say practice, I just mean in general, um, it could be praying, it could be anything. It's just something that you do to connect yourself with the spirit realm. And I find like people will get discouraged. They'll say, oh, I'm trying to manifest or I'm trying to do this and it's not working. Well, now's the time it will work. You just gotta try it.
Yes. Yes. Now, I have been told by a couple of psychics and mystics that this particular Halloween portal is a bit heavy. and it's a bit dark this year. So we do want to focus on spiritual protection at the same time that we're having fun and celebrating and doing everything. I will put the link in the description for my video on spiritual protection. So, and it's not that hard. It's, you've got everything you need at home and you
Spiritual
don't need,
hygiene.
yeah, pardon?
So spiritual hygiene. It's just a
Yes,
everything,
absolutely.
everything.
And it's easy, there's no like you got to go to like the witchy shop and spend $300. No, you can do everything at home with supplies that you already probably have in your pantry. And I'll pop that link in there as well for spiritual protection, especially at this time of year.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty relevant because I have felt a more heavier shift like for this year too. And I think we should explain to people maybe what that means a little bit, just in terms of, not to instigate fear. But I think what that is basically saying is that there's more entities um coming through a little bit stronger than it typically would because it's maybe even a little bit more thinner. And I think that has to do also with the fact that our consciousness as a collective has been raising and, higher and higher, and we're able to access more information collectively. So there's going to be more encounters with beings that aren't from our realm. And this could be anything from, an alien to a demon. But it doesn't mean we're supposed to run around and hide in fear.
No.
The thing that you do is to counteract any negative energy or, a negative entity, because we live in a polarized world. We have negative, we have positive. You got to keep your own vibration high enough so that you're not really affected by it because you're not an energetic match to be with that energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yes. And yeah, like you said, there's nothing to fear.
Mhm.
Well, what's the saying? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. But it's good to be aware and be
Right. Yeah.
conscious of these things. Many are saying we are in a spiritual war right now. And I think that's probably why this particular Halloween portal, the Samhain portal, is quite
That
heavy.
makes so much sense, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things really coming to a head and bubbling right at the surface. So it is good. And spiritual protection is it's as simple as setting an intention
Mhm.
sometimes. I will
Maintaining
just
your own peace.
I'll imagine I'm in like a sparkly hamster ball. You can't get me, right? Because there are people, not just spirits as the veil is thinning, but there are people who will emit psychic attacks,
Mhm.
and you might not even know, but suddenly your life is falling apart. And when you could even do a return to sender spell, and the friend whose life suddenly starts falling apart, that's where you know it was coming from. So
And
yeah,
people
it's
send
just
this energy intentionally and unintentionally too. Sometimes what can happen is, you get in an argument with somebody and they're like, oh, whatever. And that energy is being sent to you. And you want to be able to have your energetic boundary strong enough to just repel it. It just goes away. It doesn't actually affect you and permeate your bubble. But
mhm.
if your energetic boundary isn't strong, then it will affect you. It will permeate your bubble.
And an interesting one that I try to I try to talk about every once in a while, because I am very conscious of it, is worrying about people.
Yeah.
That is a psychic attack.
Yeah.
So you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to worry about my children so that my children are okay. No, you worry about your children aren't going to be okay.
Because you're sending that
You are
frequency.
putting that energy of
Mhm.
fear and negativity towards whoever you're worrying about. And I get it, right? We're both moms. I get it. We want our children to be safe and happy and enjoy life. But if we're spending our time fretting and worrying and lying awake thinking about, oh my God, all the things that could happen to the people we love, that's a
Mhm.
psychic attack.
Yeah.
We're actually sending that energy out to them. So that be conscious of that as well. And I
That's a
thought
very
that was a
good
really
point.
interesting one when I learned about that.
That
So,
is, it makes so much sense. And it's not to say that we need to be all like positive thoughts only, because that's not the case either. But it's just being mindful of what thoughts you're emitting and confronting them and realigning them to be something that's of a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Accepting, maybe negativity or lower frequency thoughts like fear, grief, sadness, anger, they all serve a purpose and they all help us, but it's supposed to help us grow, not supposed to make us not, get stuck.
Yes. And we attract what we are.
Yeah.
So you want to, we can, it's always so important to experience the everything, the low moments, the high moments, and everything in between, but we don't have to live in them, and we can reframe and readjust. And
Right. Yeah.
it purge things. It's good to purge them, because when you experience them, you actually are purging them. So
Right. Right.
getting everything out. The sobbing on the bathroom floor, do it. It'll get it all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to think about it anymore.
Right. It
Yeah.
has a purpose. It's just using it wisely versus letting it control your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's so many ways to do that. It's just energy. You can control it. You can shift it. You can make it do what you want. That's the magic. That's the power we all have.
My magic.
Yeah. So, Caitlyn, how do you use your QHHT to uncover hidden truths and shadow aspects?
Okay, well, basically, when we're doing quantum healing hypnosis technique, we're putting someone in a super, super relaxed state and we're accessing their subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is our non-logical mind, is where we hold deep, we can, traumas can be rooted in there, things that we've blocked out that we don't want to remember, like traumatic events, all that stuff. It's held in our subconscious mind and it actually affects our current life, with our thinking mind. And when we actually access the subconscious mind, we can pull those things out and then see what it is that we need to work on. What is it that's holding me back? What is it that, hidden truths about how you really feel about something, because we can diminish our emotions, we can diminish our feelings and stuff them down and become unaware of the truth that's within ourselves. So quantum healing is really, really great for that. And sorry, what was the other one?
Shadow aspects.
Shadow aspects. So shadow aspects is basically showing us what it is that we need to work on within ourselves. And when we do the QHHT session, we can actually ask any question that you want. And a lot of people like to ask, like, what is my purpose?
My
Am I on the
17
path?
pages of questions.
I love it though. It's great because that's the time to get all those answers. And when you actually get down to it, your subconscious mind won't lie. It will say exactly what it, wants to say, because there's nothing you were accessing it. It's not hidden anymore. And it's super, super useful that way. So I like to do that.
I do love all the different ways that comes through for people. Like
Mhm.
when your husband was telling me about his experience doing this, and then when I did it, it was our experiences were so different.
Oh yeah.
My higher self was like, duh.
Everyone's higher
Of
self.
course.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say everyone's higher self has a distinct
Yeah.
personality. There's subconscious, there's the higher self. It comes through differently for every person. Some people it's super loving and super gentle. Other people it's kind of a hard ass. Other people it's like yourself, where it's like, no, you already know this. Like, come on, like very wise and like very just knowing. And it's fascinating because people aren't, it's not their same personality.
No.
It's a distinct personality. It's very different, but it still fits with the person, which is super interesting too. Like it fits in a really good way. Like I find with yourself, it's almost like a wise guide that was like talking to you, like, well, I already tell you all this. And you're just like, oh yeah, 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 it's true. But it's like the two aspects of ourselves. And it's just amazing to watch it come together and then give us the answers that we need. Right.
Yeah. And I remember when I did it, I was like, I felt like two separate beings,
Mhm.
but I was conscious of both
Right. Because it
at
is,
the same time. So like my human was like, who is this
yeah.
person talking? Like, God, like, could you be a little nicer, please? Like I was just, but then I always say like, I'm not a nice person. I'm a good person, but I'm not, don't expect me to be the nice friend who will
Yeah.
just give you platitudes all the time. When you're being an idiot, I'm going to say, "Listen, girl, like it's time
Yeah.
to grow up here," right?
Mhm.
So I'm the spicy friend. Hello, Aries. I'm the spicy friend, and they do say your meanest friend is the one who actually loves you the most. So love
The
you.
opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. But it just but it was like I felt like listening to my higher self. I was like, yeah, that's actually who I really am.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then, but my
Actually.
human is like this character I play and this role that I play. And, but that person, so, and I've listened to it a few times, and there are actually moments where I think, yeah, like I would love to, like I felt so deeply what my higher self was saying. Then I was like, I want to be able to say that to people's faces and not get yelled at, you know?
You know, what's interesting too is that our higher self is always with us. It is connected to us at all times, even if we feel disconnected, if we don't, we feel lost, we feel stuck. We don't feel like we're on our, we're not connected, but we are. It's always there. They're always within us, always watching. It's like a direct line. So I like to think of it as like a golden thread on the top of our head that connects us to, it's like a telephone line, connects us to our higher self. And our higher self is up there just like, like watching us and guiding us and giving us clues on what to do next to lead us to our highest timeline. And it's up to us whether or not we're going to listen to that information.
Hmm.
And a lot of higher selves also come through and they're very frustrated with someone and they're very quite stern. And they say, well, I've told you this, but this is what I'm saying. And then it gives people the reality check of what it is that they need. And it's like, whoa, like, wow, I was kind of a hard ass, but it's what they needed at that time. So you never know what you're gonna get. It's always really interesting and entertaining.
Well, I think the thing, sort of the overarching thing that I kind of took from the experience was um to trust. Like, because my higher self was just kind of fed up. Like, how many times do I got to tell you this? Like, oh, and I think I trust myself more now,
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, everything made sense. I kind of already knew all of this, but why didn't I trust it? So
Yeah,
now I find I'm trusting myself more and not trying to look for deeper meanings all the time and not trying to
absolutely.
figure things out. It's like, oh, this is just how it is. And that's that. It doesn't need to mean anything. It doesn't need to be explained. I just have to accept and trust
But that
that
actually
this
makes
is
it
how it is.
stronger because that's practicing the act of detachment.
Yeah.
And simply that act of detachment of just blind, you can call it blindly trusting, but it's having a knowing within yourself and following that deep knowing because you know it's going to lead you to where you need to go. And when we run into problems is when we deliberately shove those knowings down or we ignore those knowings or we're not paying attention to those knowings. And then things are falling, not going the way that it's not leading us towards our highest timeline. It's kind of leading us either on the same trajectory, the same path, there's no growth, or it's leading us down a really bad path with like, lower frequency and kind of a miserable life.
Yeah. And we see so many people like that. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So in terms of tarot, I mean, I have spreads that I use where we can figure out which spirit is around you. Well,
Yeah.
I've got a past life experience. There's all sorts of ways of doing that. And I'm going to be recording one that will be on my channel as well on facing your fears.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, what you're afraid of and what to do about it, essentially. Actually, I've got it here: the fear, the root, and the way forward. That's what the spread is. So we'll be doing that probably in a couple. No, I'm gonna do it. It'll be on my feed. Just look for it. Just look for it in my playlists and on my channel. I can't remember what day I plan to have that released, but definitely, you know, a lot of people when they come to me and they want a reading, and then they tell me, oh, I want to know about my career. That's not what the cards are saying are the biggest thing going on right now. The cards
Yeah.
are like, no, 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 we're going to talk about something else and not even worry about your career or
Yeah.
whatever it is that they come to me for. So yeah, definitely in terms of like the shadow and hidden truths, tarot is an incredible tool because the cards will dictate what we're going to talk about. And even just the other day had a client, and the devil came out,
Mm,
And we really dug deep on that one to see like what is the actual issue, what is the addiction, what are you shackled to,
right.
what is, you know what I mean, like what is holding you back here. And and then because tarot, a really good tarot reader is more of a coach,
Mhm.
and so there was a lot of coaching that went with that particular part of the conversation,
Yeah.
because the thing, if the thing that's holding you back is the story you're telling yourself, well now you're in a coaching realm of like how do we break you out of the story, and we could do cord cutting and we can do forgiveness work and all that sort of stuff. But definitely the cards at any time of year will get to the heart of the matter. The cards will tell me really what's going on,
Mhm.
and then also bring some things to the surface that maybe my clients don't even know. I hope they know, because sometimes I sit there with the cards in front of me going, I hope they know he's cheating. You know, I've had that happen where I'm like, I hope I'm not the person to break this to this person. But yeah, I've even seen that where they're like, they want to talk about their next business venture, and the cards are like, no, your marriage is a situation right now. And
Mhm.
so we do get to the heart of the matter really fast through tarot. And then I also have other divination tools. I love charm casting and things like that. So there's all sorts of ways, for, because if I specialize in divination,
Mhm.
to get to the shadow, get to the darkest parts of us, and help people through that, and help people address it,
That's
you
just it.
know.
Like, I think as readers, we're here to guide and we're here to empower.
Yeah.
And, the best way to do that is to get to the nitty gritty. What's the problem? What's the issue here? What's the thing, like you said, holding you back or making you stuck? It's not allowing you to follow your highest path, bringing you to your highest timeline.
Yeah.
And it's super, I think it's super important. Helps you.
Yes. It's such important work, and I wish more people knew that. Like, you know, they go to the doctor, they go to the dentist, you know, they go to the hairstylist, they do all of this for themselves, but then
Right?
they're missing the spiritual element. And I'm loving that we're seeing more and more
I
people
was gonna
coming
say,
in.
mhm.
It's awesome. Like all of our little baby witches coming in and trying to find their way. I love it. I'm here for you. If that's you, reach
It
out.
used to be a thing. It really did used to be a thing where every family would have sort of like a spiritual advisor, whether
Hmm.
it was a clergy, like a church member or something, or a mystic. There's also mystics throughout history. And it was a typical thing. And it's something that's been lost along the way. And I think kind of as our society has gotten more caught up in the consumerism and the newest shiny thing, we've lost touch with that. But I know a lot of people are really starting to come back into it, and there's a big shift. It's really exciting. I'm super happy to help people, and I know you're super. You're
Yeah.
we're ready. We're like, yeah, come
Let us
to
be your spiritual guides.
right, right,
Yeah. Yeah. So, Caitlin, have you ever encountered a ghost?
multiple
Yeah,
times.
I know. It's like, what day is it? Right?
I think during every reading, I get a ghost come through, a spirit of some sort. I do have like my very first spiritual experience that happened to me that made me truly understand that there was another realm in this world. Growing up, my mom used to always see spirits, and I really didn't, I was very uncomfortable with it. She never made it scary. It was very quite normalized, but I didn't like the idea of someone watching me like in this space. And so I kind of shut it down. I shut it off. And fast forward to I think it was probably about 2012, maybe 2013. I'm not sure if it was after my dad passed away or if it was before that. Probably, I think, yeah, it was a little bit, I'm pretty sure right around that time. And I was looking for answers, I wanted to understand why he had passed so suddenly. And I went to a psychic, and she was amazing. Um, and she basically said to me that my grandfather had come through, and he was really telling me that I needed to get in touch with my spiritual side. And fast or rewind a little bit before that, that made me curious about it, was I was at a boyfriend's house, like, but a year or two prior, maybe about 2 years prior. And I was sitting on the edge of a bed. It was middle of January, and I felt all of a sudden this cold gush of wind come right at me. And I immediately realized it was a spirit. I immediately understood that it was an energy, and I knew who it was as my grandfather. Oh, well, I wasn't quite sure because I was confused because he was still alive. And I felt cold, but it was very warm. I knew that he was at peace. He was visiting me to show me that he was passed on. And my grandfather was a very Catholic, very spiritual person in his own way. He did believe in the afterlife, and he um was quite religious, and I kind of shied away from religion personally, but I was kind of open to the idea of spirituality, but I wasn't like I am today. And I was quite closed off, quite, unaware. And the lady had the psychic that I had gone to, a couple of years later, she said, well, your grandfather's coming through and he's saying that you need to step more into your spirituality. You need to learn more about this. And I took that as, so immediately I understood it was him um, during my visit. And I'm going all over the place right now. I don't mean to.
No, you're doing great.
After that experience of the energy coming through me, the next morning I got a phone call from my mom saying that my grandfather had passed away. So I knew it was my grandfather that had visited me. And that was my first realization that there was another side, another layer to this 3D world that we're living in. But I still was quite like, I wasn't sure how to take it, right? I wasn't sure. I wasn't religious. I couldn't quite grasp, you know, the Bible in terms of believing it. I always looked at it as like a story personally, but that's just me. And when I had gone to the psychic, she had told me I need to step into my spirituality. And I was like, well, I do understand that there's a spiritual world. That's why, I had gone to her. I was a little bit hesitant, wasn't sure what I was going to get from it, but she was quite accurate. And I left feeling confident about it. And I look back and I think of how funny it is now because in that time, I had only looked at spirituality as religion. I didn't look at it as being just a realm around us at all times. And fast forward to today, and I have dove into my spirituality. I have embraced it. I have explored. I have let go of any preconceived, shackles of preconceived notions, just exploring and looking at it in a way that was comfortable for me to explore it. So it was kind of removing the shackles of religion and exploring it in terms of energies and frequencies. And I've had experiences with ghosts now ever since that time. I'm still not entirely open to it. I prefer to feel them. I don't really want to see them. I would rather feel them around me, and I can sense when they're here. They come through every reading. Typically, someone will come through every reading. But yeah, it's really solidified for me that there is another layer to our world, and for us to have those experiences, I can everyone you talk to, everyone will have an experience. And I want to hear about your experience because I know you've had a few really interesting ones too.
My whole life. Ever since I was a child. So, something that happens, it doesn't happen as much now, but just from time to time. But when I was younger, quite often I would hear my name being called, in my house, and it was always like in an old Scottish accent, which is how I knew it wasn't like one of my friends or like a neighbor or something, because I would hear, and they would say my name. So like in Canada, like people don't say my name properly. They say it like Canadian, right? And so, and I do too, because that's easier.
Right.
But in Scotland, like Scottish people say my name properly. And so that's how I'm used to hearing it when I'm with Scottish people. And so it would be an old Scottish, usually a man voice calling my name, but the way it's meant to be said. And so that's how I knew it was something outside of what I know.
Right.
And
How do you
I can
how do you
smell.
say it?
How do I say it? So in Canada, I have to really enunciate my name,
Right.
Avril,
Mhm.
right? In Scotland, you just say Avril.
Mm.
And so if I say that here, people go Avro, and I'm like, No, no, but in Scotland, it's just said in that way, but with a little roll and not that enunciation of the L. And so I can see my son going back and forth here. That's not a ghost, everybody. That's my son. But I can also smell spirits. So I will often smell cigarette smoke in the house, and nobody here smokes. And then I'll be like walking around being like, why can I smell cigarettes? But it's like an ancestor because, my grandparents and great grandparents, they all smoked. So
That's a big one. I actually get that one a lot too. It drives me bonkers because
I
it's like,
know, right? Because I'm like, is there really somebody here? Or like knock 3 times if it's just a ghosty,
yeah.
you know? And so, and then I have a spirit that hangs around me, and it's a very protective spirit, and I can smell her. And she
Mm,
has a very distinct smell. And people are like, oh, well, what does it smell like? I'm like, I don't know. It's just a really distinct smell that I haven't smelled anywhere else. And I don't know what it is. But
right.
when I am in psychic or spiritual danger, she appears, and it will be almost suffocating sometimes. And I remember I was in a sound bath, and there was another woman there who I knew just couldn't stand me. She went on the attack one day, sent me novels of hate. And because I invited her to something. Yeah, that's how sensitive we all are. And so my little ghosty, I'm lying there, I'm all snuggled up on my pillow, my blanket, and I'm literally being suffocated. And I had to say to this ghost, like, go wait in the car.
Mm.
Okay, like, I'm fine, please go wait in the car. And she reluctantly left, but that's how I knew. I was like, yeah, she's sitting there. This woman's sitting on the other side of the room going, I hate that, you know? And so, because the ghosty appears. So, whenever I can smell ghosty, I know I may be in some kind of spiritual danger, but with the people around me, or somebody may have been trying to send me a
Mm.
little psychic attack, intentionally or unintentionally. And my little ghosty has showed up to block it. So, that's one. But the story before we jumped on the call, I was telling you that I told this story the other night at a little bonfire. And years ago, I used to do a lot of stuff with community theater.
Mhm.
And this is when I lived in Toronto, for people who aren't from Toronto. And so I was in this theater that is in Scarborough, for anybody who happens to live there. So it's near Fairview Mall. And it was actually the Fairview Mall Theater. And it was a separate building that that's exactly what it was. It did stage shows. And so I was stage managing. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And if any stage manager or anyone who has worked on that show in the past, you'll be nodding your head right now going, yeah, there's no cues. You 3 hours of like no cues. It's like literally one cue, put the curtain up, put the lights out, and then the next cue is put the curtain down and deal with the lights. So you're just kind of sitting there in the booth because you have to watch the whole thing just in case there's anything that goes on. And the lighting person was a young girl. I think we were only in our early 20s at the time. And so we're sitting there, and we had baseball caps on. And so we had paper, so we made a ball, and then we were bouncing this paper ball off of the rims of our baseball caps. That, like, we had 3 hours with nothing to do.
Right.
So and so we're just playing, and then all of a sudden we heard the jingling of keys, like a big bunch of keys, because we were in the booth of the theater, like it's like behind everybody, and there's a door that locks because you can't have people coming in and out. So the door is locked, and we heard keys, and we both turn around, and there's nobody there. And so it was like, well, that was weird. And then I said, well, maybe I think it might have been the manager of the theater, and maybe she started coming in and then had to realize she had to go do something else, and so she didn't actually come in. But for the next little while that night, the lighting girl and I kept turning and looking, like we could feel there was somebody behind
Mhm.
us. It was so freaky. Like, I wasn't scared, but it was like, this is wild. This is
Right.
really wild. And we could feel it. And it was just like, whoa, I've never had this kind of experience before. And so like we're like, okay. And then all of a sudden the lights over the theater just like surged up and then caca and then went back down. And I look at her and she's like, I wasn't even touching the board. Like, what is going on here?
Right.
So at the intermission, we go out to the theater manager's office and we're like, did you start to come in and not? And she said, no, I haven't left my office all night. Why? And so we tell her, and then we tell her about the lights, and she's like, oh, the ghosty must really like you. And I was like, is that what's been going on for the last few days in this building? Because so many crazy things were happening. So she said, yeah, the ghosty loves to play. Like if you've got good energy and you seem like a fun group, the ghosty will play with you. And she said that the ghosty used to play with the lights, but they actually replaced all the lights. And she said, we're the first group with the new lights. So the
Mm.
ghosty must be having fun with the new lights as well. In the days leading up to this, we were of course building the set and bringing everything in. There's like a big the stage in this theater, it's at one end has the big garage door, so you
Right.
just back the trucks up and load everything in. And next to that big garage door is just a regular door with a doorknob and to go up and down the hallway.
Mm.
And so I kept unlocking this door because I had to keep getting in and out of the hallway because I'm doing stuff, I'm stage managing, I got a lot to do. And every single time I would go to the door, it would be locked. And then I'd unlock it and then go up and down, and then it would be locked again. Nobody else is there. And I'm like, now I understand why this door kept getting locked, because the
Trickster.
ghosty kept locking it, being like, ha ha ha, we'll play
Mhm.
with you. And then, of course, the garage door would keep getting locked as well. There was a bolt, like a big massive bolt, and now I'm thinking about it, both of these things are metal. So now that's sort of adding up in terms of what spirit can do, because they tend to use metal. It's much
Yeah.
easier for them than anything else. But I had this big bolt to lock the garage door, and they kept unlocking it, and I kept locking it and unlocking it, locking it and unlocking it. And even times like I went at intermission, I walked across the stage and I knew the door was unlocked. It had to be unlocked. And of course, it's locked and nobody's
Mhm.
gone near the door. So, and the door had to keep getting unlocked because now I've got actors who need to get in and out. So it was a whole situation. But that was just one example of like a crazy experience with
Love
ghosts.
it. I feel like
Yeah.
people experience, interactions and they're not even aware of it because it can be very subtle. Like you said, the conduit of choice that they're easy to manipulate is through metal. So like moving things or electricity is a huge one. Electronics is a huge one. They can kind of interact with us, and even though we can't see them, some people can see them, but if we don't see them, they're still there. It's just that we're not physically seeing them with our eye visually. And not all interactions are positive. And this is where I think the fear of like the ghosts comes through. Is like I've had a really quite uncomfortable and unpleasant experience with a ghost. I just want to say this story real quick because it was kind of spooky. Um, I was getting ready for a vendor market show and I was staying over at my mom's place. My mom is a avid collector of things. She likes, to buy funky things and like thrift shopping and get all this stuff. And she had weird items. And so I don't know what item it was attached to, but when I went to bed that night, I knew something was watching me and it was kind of unnerving. Went to bed anyways, and I was ignoring it, and it came through in my sleep. So what had happened was it was this woman, this older woman, who did not like my products, which were more spiritual, because I think this woman was quite religious. And she felt like she was going to teach me a lesson in my dream about playing with things that she thought I had no business delving into. And what she did was she came in and she went like over my head. And I immediately woke up. I knew she was there. And I just had to say, I said, go away. I said, that's, you're annoying me. And I was faking it because I was really scared. I'm not gonna lie. Like I almost hopped into bed with my mom in the middle of the night because this woman scared the
Yeah.
crap out of me. But I ignored it because that's what you're supposed to do. and she left me alone for the rest of the night. But then at the market show, and whoever's watching this, if you're at the market show, you may remember this. The next day, the energy was off. And I think it followed me to this market, and it was just permeating like this heavy, not very pleasant energy that was just kind of affecting everybody there. And I had to get my bells out and I had to shake it away and clear it away. And it went away, it dissipated. But my mom and I both knew that it had followed us there to kind of, you know, this isn't she was super religious, whoever she was. She was not happy with what we were doing. She thought
And
it
let's
was
be specific. Was she super Christian?
yes.
Okay, because when people say
Great.
super religious, I'm very religious, but I'm not Christian, right? So,
No, she was very
yeah.
Christian and she thought what we were doing was basically, witchcraft, evil, bad. And she was going to teach us to convert, whatever.
Hmm.
But if you encounter a spirit that's not pleasant, because there are plenty of them out there, there's lots. There's a lot of people have their houses inhabited by, unpleasant spirits. And you can ignore it and you can tell it to go away. And that's the biggest thing with clearing is declaring your energy, your space. And by the laws of the universe, it has to leave. If it's not welcome and you say it has to go and you mean it with conviction, because a lot of people are, that's where the old priest comes through for the, oh, what's it called? When they do the
Exorcisms.
exorcisms. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. They're declaring that this space is no longer inhabited by this negative field and it needs to leave. And a lot of people just don't stand in their conviction with it. But
Mhm.
that's probably one of the biggest things. There are things like, poltergeists are a stronger energy that can linger and cause a lot of problems and be very difficult to remove. But they're not as common as, like simply a ghost, an unpleasant ghost.
Hmm. Yeah, when I did my psychic protection video, I did talk about that. Like you can just tell them like not today. Like I'm too busy for your
Yeah.
nonsense today. Like my higher self is like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
like really, we just don't have time for this. And so
Yeah.
you can, if you're like, listen, I've got stuff to do. I don't have time for this today. Come back tomorrow or, just go away forever. Like yeah, like you said, they have to. And
And they kind of
and the
nervous,
bells, I love that
scared.
you brought up the bells. Bells, we all have bells because that is really good. If you feel any sort of need to have a tool for psychic protection, a bell.
Well, it's just breaking up that frequency.
Yeah.
It's disrupting it and it's making it dissipate to where it needs to go.
And you can use it to call in your angels as well.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you're like, no, come on, angels, help me out here, then they will come and they will show up because they have to do what they're told. They have to, when you call, they come. That's it.
A lady said to me today, and she was quite wise, and she said to me, our spirit team has a lot of unemployed people up there because we're not employing them. We're not using them. We're not asking for their help. We're not designating them jobs. And so it stuck with me. And I'm like, you know what? That's so true. We have to ask for help. We have to be able to request it and give them jobs.
And how I do that is I will say to the spirit guide who is assigned to help me with my business, my life, my friendships,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
activate you now and I invite you now to come and help me and give me messages and support me through this. And then suddenly you should feel something shift. You should feel something, usually a little tingly or something, as they're like, oh, start the car. We got work to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's true, like there's a lot of guides who are just sitting around, like the Maytag man, he's got nothing to do. So call them in, like I will, if I'm lost and I don't know where I am, or I'm like trying to find my way home and I'm out in the countryside, sometimes there's no GPS signal, things like that. I will just say to my guide who's assigned to help me get home, let's go, giddy up. I need you now. I activate you and invite you now. Please come help me. I got to go pee pees. So, like that's
Get me out
usually
of
what it boils
here.
down to. We've got a limited amount of time here to get me some help.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that definitely just ask them, just call them, because like so many things in the spiritual world, you need to invite them.
Mhm.
It's like I always say, people are like, yeah, just come over anytime. And I'm like, sweetie pie, I'm a witch. You have to invite me. Like,
Yeah.
there's just, you know what I mean? Vampires too. You have to invite them in. They can't just show up. You have to invite them in.
Yep.
And that has to be an invitation. So yeah, practice that. To the spirit guide who is assigned to help me with XYZ, I invite you and activate you now to help me.
Yep.
And then you should be receiving something, signs, messages, energy, anything.
I love
Usually
it.
signs, because that's how they try to get your attention. But absolutely, they must be invited.
Yeah. Now, for um in terms of like Samhain with ancestors, I love that all that information. That's really, really good information. I'm just trying to keep going because the kids are going to be off the bus soon. So, rituals and practices for honoring ancestors and navigating the thin veil.
Yes.
Is there certain ritual or things that you recommend to kind of just explore a little bit? Um, what do you do to kind of connect with those that have passed on or
So something that I do all the time is I call in my ancestors, and I do that when I do tarot readings. I have a pipe, an old wooden pipe,
oh, that's
and it
cool.
was a gift from another mystic, and I use it when I want to work with ancestors. So I bring it out, it sits with me when I'm doing readings and things like that, because sometimes I'm like, no, I'm going to need some help from my ancestors.
Right.
But one thing that I do every year at this time is I create an ancestor altar.
Mm.
And I do that with photographs of my grandparents, the ones that I grew up with, and I put little things with it like that I know they would like some yellow flowers, some freesias,
Right.
my grandfather's favorite chocolate bar, and my grand's little bottle of rye that she used to always like, and things like that, and just spend some time like thinking about them and talking to them and honoring them. And you can use all kinds of things, like you could put their personal belongings there, candles, offerings like flowers, fruit, bread, like snacks. Like our ancestors, they love the snacks, that's for
Mhm.
sure. And you can light the candle, invite them in to enjoy the space with you. There's some, you can pray, you can meditate, expressing gratitude for their guidance and wisdom, like whatever it is. But definitely working with the energy of your ancestors at this time of year is really powerful. And I do have a meditation that I do with some of my clients where we actually take them on a journey and they sit with their ancestors. And it's really cool to hear what came through for them.
Yeah.
Some other things that we can do at this time of year is a dumb supper. And that's really a silent meal. And it's you eat dinner sitting in silence, and you invite spirits to join you, and you share a meal with them. And
You
it's
can put out a plate for them and let
yeah.
them.
Yeah, put out a plate for them, have a chair. There is a superstition that you should always have an empty chair at your table.
Oh,
Yeah, just in case, at any meal. And so you just make a meal, and then you set a place for your ancestors or spirits you want to call in and honor. And then you eat the meal in silence, and you think about them, and you reflect on your memories of them. And
to
you
be
might
very
receive
mindful.
messages. Yeah, you might receive messages, and you're going to find out who around you is a loud chewer. That's for sure. Because like you would just be in absolute silence.
Mhm.
And you can ask them questions, and you can ask them for help and ask them for support, ask them what they would do in a situation, but you would do that mentally and have a mental conversation with them. And you can also light a candle for each of your ancestors, and it's just taking a moment with
Yeah,
them.
that's I think how I connect mostly is, I'll grab a photograph, I'll get a candle. I'm really simple, basic. I'm a basic witch. I do the bare minimum. But, if your intention's there, it's all the same. I get a photograph, I get a candle, and I just think about them. And when you think about them, you're drawing your energy to them, you're connecting to them. And that's all you need to do. It's really, really simple.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It can help you. You can ask for guidance. You can ask for help. You can ask for, assistance and whatever you need. So it's
And I
good.
think like really the strongest message here, it doesn't need to be complicated.
No,
It doesn't, like light a candle, light a match if that's all you've got,
yeah,
and just say, I'm calling in whoever.
yeah. You
Please,
don't need to
please
buy a
join
thousand
me.
dollars worth of crystals in order to
Yeah,
connect with somebody. You don't.
no. No, and that's the thing, the commercialization of the spiritual world. Listen, it's great for crows. We love our shiny objects. But you don't have to. A
It's
lot
not a
of
prerequisite. Right.
yeah, like a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, how am I going to afford all these things?" You know, if you need herbs, if you need bulk barn, the
Yeah.
baking section of your grocery store, the bay leaves. I always have a big jar of bay leaves. I don't go anywhere fancy. I go to Bulk Barn or I go to the grocery store and just buy the
Grow them,
no-name
yeah.
packages.
Grow them in your garden. I have a
Yeah.
little apothecary on my website, so I do have herbs available that are harder to find, but like you don't need to have a rare herb.
Yeah.
You know, it might be bad for business, but at the same time, every plant has a specific property, and you don't need to have, an exotic plant or whatever just for something. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be anything. Just keep it simple. It'll
Mhm.
work. It'll be there. It'll do the job.
And when I'm doing spell work or anything like this, I kind of take like the same approach as I do with Martha
Mhm.
Stewart. When I'm reading one of her recipes and there's 17 ingredients, three of them I have never heard of, I just turn the page and move on to the next one, you know, because I'm like, nothing needs to be this complicated.
No.
Sometimes you need a bay leaf and a match,
Yeah.
or even a lighter, and that's your spell. It's spells and intentions and prayers, they're all the same thing. So you really don't need much more than sometimes just your voice
Right.
sometimes. So yeah, there's other things that we can do at this time of year, performing a ritual of release
Mhm.
because we are coming to some endings here, and you can ask your ancestors to help you release your burdens. Are you waiting for the school bus?
I am. I don't mean to jump off, but I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to jump off and go get the bus and run it in my Harry Potter.
Okay, do you want to pause and then come back?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay, I'm just going to pause.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. That didn't take long. So, where we were at is performing a ritual of release, and you can invite your ancestors in to help you release burdens. You can uh, use that energy, write down anything that you want to release, burn it in a fire safe situation. Don't come to me if there's a problem. It's all on you. We're grown adults. We know how to burn things safely. And this will allow the fire to transmute that energy and help
Right.
you release some stuff. And you can do that with the help of your ancestors. You can do a meditation for spirit communication. That is a fun one. I love seeing what comes through. And it's, you simply, oftentimes when we start a meditation, we'll say, set your intention. And your intention would be to communicate with your ancestors and receive
Right.
messages and wisdom from them. Super, super easy. Ancestral tarot readings, my jam, my jam. And you can do that yourself, or you can come to me and let's do that. And the cards are going to all mean different things, including the wisdom that our ancestors want to share, what they want you to release, and how you can honor their legacy as well as
Right.
your own as you're moving through life. And that's a super fun one. A lot of people want tarot readings at this time of year because they think it's like this spooky woo thing. And I'm like, no, no, we do them all year as regular people. And then, of course, connecting with nature spirits, which is always fun. And you can bring offerings to nature. You can put food, you can put bread, fruit, and you can just leave it. And if you ever see a tree with like flowers around the base of the tree, you'll know
No.
somebody's been playing with the fairies for sure. Somebody's left a little offering for the fairies, absolutely. And when you're doing that, just pay attention to anything that you're feeling. Oh, there's my little critter back there, my little familiar. I saw yours was wandering around. Oh,
Wait, there's so
there you
yeah.
go. Yeah. And this taking us back to the very beginning of this conversation where you were talking about how this time of year you feel very connected to the earth. So absolutely connecting with nature. And you can do dream work. You can, before you fall asleep, ask your ancestors to visit you in dreams and see what messages they have for you. It's hard being moms and mystics all at the same time,
It
isn't
is
it?
multitasking at its finest.
Yes, so I think we're gonna wrap that up here. Thank you so much, Caitlin. I can't wait to celebrate Halloween, see what we all do, share our stories. I know I'm gonna see you next week, so we'll be able to compare notes. Oh, I'll see you in 2 weeks,
I'm
and
excited.
we'll compare notes and see what magic happened. Thank
Yes.
you all for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed this, and don't forget to check out the other videos. This is a 12-part series, and I think this is episode 3 that we're
Great.
on
Yeah.
now. Yep. And so this is a 12-part series. So hang around, subscribe, look for the notifications. We're doing this type of conversation once a month. So there'll be a nice, super long form video for you every month on all topics of spirituality. What do we have coming up next? We have, the Akashic Records is our conversation for
I'm
November.
super
And
excited for that
then
one.
of course, we'll probably do a little festive fun something, Yule something-ish
Yeah.
coming up in December. We've got lots of things planned. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit subscribe on both of our accounts. I'll put Caitlin's links in the description as well,
I
so
still
you
have to
can
get better at making videos, but
We're getting there, right? It's a journey. It's a
yeah.
journey. I'm told that YouTube is Gen Xer playground, and I'm really seeing that myself as a Gen Xer. I'm like, yeah, we're seeing a lot of people my age out there doing things, and we're learning a lot, and we're sharing a lot
Yeah.
of what we're learning. So it's a super awesome community. I am loving it here on YouTube, and I hope you are too. Let's grow both of these channels. Have a happy Halloween, my friend, and happy Samhain, blessed be all the good stuff. Eat all the candy, light all the candles.
Yeah, I
Hang
hope
out.
everyone listening enjoyed learning a little bit about Samhain, and there's some information that you could take and learn from it. Grow your curiosity a little bit about the spirit realm. And if you ever have any questions, like reach out to either one of us anytime. We're happy to help and we're happy to guide. So
Absolutely. And if you want to do the quantum healing session with Caitlin, just reach out to her. I've done it. A whole bunch of people have done it. It's life-changing, very transformational work, and you really learn a lot about yourself. And if you would like a tarot reading, any spiritual work, any kind of session like that, reach out to me. Whew. Awesome. We did it. Yay! And in the costume, we got the costume on the whole time. Have
yeah.
a magical day, everyone.
Bye, guys.